Hello folks, Professor Bourne here. The goal of this lesson is to make sure that you understand the minimum expectations for writing research essays. We'll be looking at a few examples and asking ourselves, is it plagiarism? Now, to help us along the way, we're going to be looking at a small chunk of an article that I linked as part of your lesson content this week, an essay by Kate Ehrenfeld-Gardequie published in Education Week. It presents a interesting perspective on teaching argument to students. Now, we're going to be focusing in on two paragraphs in particular. In these paragraphs here, we find our author presenting a striking opinion on crafting an argument. Go ahead and pause this video and take just a moment to read it over. Excellent. Now, we are going to be in a little hypothetical scenario. We're going to be imagining a student who wants to present ideas from Ehrenfeld's article inside of her essay. And while she was writing her essay, she noticed this passage in particular. In this passage, Ehrenfeld says this: "As the years went by, however, a problem became clear. Too many students seem to be learning that the first step to crafting an argument is finding evidence to support a preformed opinion. As the internet became ubiquitous, this instinct became more and more dangerous." Now, let's take a look at what our fictitious student put into her essay. She wrote this: "The students aren't learning to argue correctly. Too many students seem to be learning that the first step to crafting an argument is finding evidence to support a preformed opinion." So, is it plagiarism? Yes, emphatically yes. Our student did manage to write her own sentence at the start, but the entirety of that second sentence is just copied word and word from Ehrenfeld's article. You are not allowed to simply copy sentences that you find online, toss them in your essays, and say, "Hey, look, Professor Bourne, what a great writer I am." That does not work. All right. Let's send our fictitious student back to the drawing board. Can she do a little bit better? Let's take a look. Students aren't learning to argue correctly. According to Kate Ehrenfeld-Gardequie, too many students seem to be learning that the first step to crafting an argument is finding evidence to support a preformed opinion. Is it plagiarism? Yes. Yes, it is. We are happy that the student did identify the author of her source. We're happy that she put Gardequie's name in a signal phrase in this paragraph to tell us that the ideas are not hers. But she still just flat out presented Gardequie's sentence, and she presented it as her own, without quotation marks in there. Readers are left to believe that our fictitious student presented Gardequie's ideas, but in the student's own words. This is not what actually happened. Once again, I will not be able to put a grade on this assignment. All right, let's give our student one more shot here. It's the third time the charm. Let's see if she can pull it together. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Do you see? Just two little pieces of punctuation. Those innocent little quotation marks surrounding the words that were directly presented from her source. That is sufficient to make this an academically honest paragraph. This is what you have to do if you want to present a direct quotation inside of your essay. You need to attribute the source, and you need to surround the directly quoted text with quotation marks. Now, let's take this one step further, and let's make this a little bit more complicated. What if our student tries to paraphrase Gardequie instead of directly quote her? Let's see how well she does with this strategy. Our fictitious student wrote, "Students aren't learning to argue correctly. According to Kate Ehrenfeld-Gardequy, too many students seem to be learning that the initial step to writing an argument is locating evidence to support a preformed opinion." Think this one over for a moment. Is it plagiarism? It is. Our student did, if you look very carefully and compare the two sentences, she did change 3 of the words from the original. She changed first to initial. She changed crafting an argument to writing an argument, and we have locating instead of finding. But notice how many words exactly match the original. We don't get to just, fuss with a couple of synonyms and declare a sentence our own. Paraphrase needs to be much more substantial. Let's look at one final example to show you what I mean. If we send our student back to the drawing board for one more shot at paraphrasing, she comes up with this. According to Kate Ehrenfeld-Gardequy, students often think arguments simply involve looking for research that supports their current beliefs. This is academically honest. Notice that it is a different sentence structure with largely different word choice. Putting ideas into your own words is not always an easy thing, but it is necessary work for showing that you've actually mastered the material. To wrap this up, let's think about a couple of best practices as you are presenting research from your sources and looking to produce academically honest work. Make sure that in the body of your essay that you are identifying your sources. You need to tell us who wrote things. Sometimes you'll have an author's name. Sometimes you won't have that and you'll need to present a title or the name of an organization. But tell your readers where you are finding your ideas. Secondly, you have to surround direct quotations with quotation marks. And make sure you are doing this as you are writing your rough drafts. This is not a step that you can wait to do later. Finally, when you are choosing to paraphrase and summarize your sources rather than directly quote them, you need to make sure you're putting in the work to make those sentences your own. You can't just tell Microsoft Word to find you a synonym or two. You need to use your own sentence structure and word choice. Now, we'll be talking a lot more about citation as the semester progresses, but these are my minimum expectations for every assignment from day one. Show me your best work.